Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of the MG Experience. I'm glad you guys had a lot of fun with a little Super Bowl one last time. But now let's get into the meat of business. This episode is about something we don't talk about. The point of my podcast is usually to talk about things no one talks about that much. For example, topics based on content and all different kinds of sorts of things. So first, we will be talking about cable versus streaming services because that is a really interesting topic, something that no one talks about, especially now in 2026 that everything's gotten crazy. You know what I mean? Basically, television has been changing all over the place back since the 70s, 80s, where you used to use an antenna. But we don't talk about that anymore, not really. After that faded, cable was the way to go, for a while at least. But then came streaming services from Netflix, Disney Plus, Hulu, Peacock, YouTube, Amazon Prime, Apple TV, Max, and Paramount Plus. This made it easier with all the consistency and functions that went throughout the years. I mean, for example, Netflix was literally the very first one, and it usually just started as a DVD run. That's what it usually did. But sooner or later, they evolved. So now I'm going to tell you the differences between the two categories, especially how they changed and made it easier for people to come and go by it. All right, let's talk about market shares, which is really important for viewing, especially at television. Usually it used to be cable back about 10 years ago, but now streaming services took the wheel because now most viewers are into streaming services more than cable. Cable used to offer a lot of different channels, but even it's been replaced with YouTube TV, which is literally cable but subscribed in a different way, which I will talk about later. Viewers' market share for cable has gone down for a long time, and they're in the last leg with very few customers. Most of them have gone to streaming services, and the streaming services have gone up due to various reasons and due to the content they offer. As you see, they both have their own flaws, which means they both have different weaknesses and strengths. Marketing share, the winner would be streaming services, and content delivery, the winner is cable. But now, structure is the next category. Structure is really important because it's based on how the cable is delivered and how the streaming services are delivered and used as well. So, for example, for cable, the structure is basically based on the router that the company, that the cable that installed its satellite, DirecTV, Xfinity, and all the different ones. When you first get the cable, the people that work there go install it, put the satellite on, put the router in there. And as for streaming services, it depends on the internet connection or specifically Wi-Fi connection, which is a little bit easier because even though it's a weakness on delivery, it is a strength in structure because it depends. You only need a Wi-Fi connection to watch it on your mobile device or at home. Depends on what you need or what you got. So for structure, it's easier to use streaming services because it's structured easily and you don't have to rely on all those cables and routers for it to work. As for variety, it is a little bit different with that one because both of them have the content they need. It just depends on how they want it. For example, the variety for cable is literally the channels that are offered to watch, whether it's the basic ones, Fox, NBC, ABC, PBS, Telemundo, Univision, the usual ones, the CW, or the cable ones, which include the Disney Channel, Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, MTV, Comedy Central, aka, and many more. As for streaming services, the variety is a little bit different based on its theme that captures all the content. For example, Disney Plus usually plays all the Disney content along with Fox and Marvel, which are also bought by Disney, which literally all the Disney properties that the company's bought, it's got all that content. And as for other stuff like superheroes, from the DC, it would be Max, which also offers Cartoon Network and all the different CW or WB content as well. And as for Paramount, it offers Paramount content and Nickelodeon, Hulu, which also features anime and its little collaboration with Disney Plus, which I will talk about later. So in variety, I think streaming service has cable beat, because cable only offers you a select amount, while streaming services is categorized. Unless you could also use YouTube TV, which is a variation of cable, which I will talk about later. Alright, guide is literally pretty straightforward, especially if you had cable and antenna for a very long time. Usually it's based on the timing and what you're going to watch and what you're going to watch, which is pretty interesting because it all depends on timing. In cable, usually you can only watch certain shows at certain timing, certain events at certain timing. Usually, for example, Fox, you can only watch Family Guy's new episode and Simpsons new episode Sunday nights. Mostly. You could watch events depending on the channel and the only time that they're offered, whether the time zone is Eastern, Pacific, or Mountain Standard Times. You can only watch the news at 10 p.m. or longer. Or you can even watch certain novellas or TV shows at certain times during the channel, like the CW, Telemundo, Univision, and all that stuff. As for streaming services, it's a little bit differently. Unless it's a big event, you can watch shows whenever you want, at whatever time you want. The difference is that instead of having a time slot for that, is that they have a certain time that the new episode will be available. For example, a new episode on Hulu will be available the next day. A new episode on Paramount will be available the same day or later in the afternoon. It depends on what you're watching, unless it's an event as well. So what I would say is it's basically based on timing. And for guides, streaming services is winning due to its less stressful timing to watch what you want to watch and its easier way to maneuver it. Alright, next is advertisement, and in my opinion, it's a neutral way, because advertisement is literally trying to persuade the public to get some. But cable no longer has advertisement anymore, and neither the streaming services, unless it's advertising a new season to an exclusive TV show or movie from that service. Alright, now we're coming back to content. And this time it's a little bit different, because unlike cable, streaming service has something called original content. which is literally content produced by the company that streaming service acquires, or content that can only be seen in that streaming service. For example, Disney original movies and TV shows, Netflix original movie, TV shows, and animes, and Apple TV, Paramount, etc. So they're usually original shows that are made for a certain kind of industry that is aligned to streaming services. Like, for example, Cobra Kai is an original continuation TV show to the Karate Kid movies of the 80s, but it is really exclusive and only available for Netflix. It cannot be binged or watched anywhere else. Um, Disney also covered a lot of originals for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Percy Jackson, and other TV shows like What If that can only be seen in Disney because of their connection to Marvel, Star Wars, and Fox original stuff. Even movies and specials from long-running TV shows like Family Guy, South Park, and also The Simpsons were all original to their streaming services. You can't see that on TV. And some of them also have original movies, which could be rip-offs, continuations, and other kind of different things. For example, Happy Gilmore 2 came out 20 plus years after the original one came out, but it can only be watched on Netflix. A variation of Big Fat Liar into Bigger Fat Liar with similar story that can only be seen there. Then original Diary of the Wimpy Kid animated movies for Disney Plus, and original anime content for Crunchyroll. So that's the original content part I forgot to mention, or more like wanted to mention earlier, original content that only applies to streaming services, not cables or cable companies. Okay, next one is going to be contracts. Contracts are really, really important, especially on these kinds of services. And most of you have had cable for a long time should know what I'm talking about. Contracts to have the service is really, really important because that shows the viewer and the company how the relationship will work, betting on the contract that they will be using their product. With cable, it's a bit complicated because cable comes in packages, and you can only have a certain amount of channels based on the package contract you have. So you will have to pay more money for a higher and better package. And even if you make a contract with them, the contract will last a couple years. And even if you decide to suspend it, it adds to the contract. So contracts are really unpopular with cable due to that. In streaming services, in the other words, it is based on subscription, and some streaming services have package subscriptions, but it's all based on subscriptions. For you to get all the content in the streaming services, you have to pay a certain amount of money each month per subscription. Sometimes there are bundles between 3 or more streaming services. There's also some that partner up sometimes, like Hulu and Disney started to partner up like a year and a half ago. So they come to package deal now. And so on. So it's based on the contracts you made with both of them. But it is more convenient with streaming services. A lot of people have lost cable customers because of their contracts and under shady plans. No matter what kind of contract you do with them, they will make you pay more money or make it last longer. And as for streaming services, it's a little bit easier because you get all content. You may get a little premium, depends on some of them that have packages, but you get all content for any basic streaming service with no contract, and when you're done, you just have to unsubscribe or stop paying. And there won't be an extension of contract, and you can return to that streaming services whenever you want. So I think for contract streaming services are a little bit more flexible and easygoing for everybody else. And finally, the last point I'd like to make is the future trends of both of them. Right now, and it tells why one of them is superior. Streaming service is taken over 45% of the viewing population for television and movies, especially because they acquired some program TV shows from exclusive TV channels that have died already. Paramount has Comedy Central and Nickelodeon shows. Max has Cartoon Network. Disney has taken over Fox and literally replaced the entire Disney Channel area. And Max has also taken a lot of superhero from the DC universe and Disney from the Marvel Universe shows. So basically, it's dominating all types of TV shows and movies. Even Peacock has started doing some trends by its original shows from Ted and Chucky, two of the biggest icons in recent history. And as for anime, Crunchyroll is all the way it goes, even though it does share a little bit of it with Disney and Hulu. So variety, and that's what it's all about for future trends. Cable is still in the running, but for very few reasons. Cable is only surviving due to its news, events, and sports. As long as you could watch sports and news, it could be the same. Some streaming services have tried to surpass the gap, like YouTube TV, which is literally a variation of cable and streaming services. But instead of a big contract, it's just a subscription like the others. So in future trends, I think cable's going down a lot. If it weren't for its music and its sports and news, it would be going down all the way. But basically, all the original channels that made cable special have now been transferred to streaming services, even though they still run on as channels in their packages. They don't run anything new. It's just reruns to keep the channel going. In the end, cable is barely hanging on, with streaming services overtaking them in market share, content delivery, variety, guide, advertising, contracts, and future trends. By streaming services having original content, acquiring literally most of the content that used to appear in regular cable channels, variety of movies, easy to control, easy to have a contract with, and easy to maneuver. I guess the only convenient and discomfort would be the reliance on Wi-Fi. But apart from internet reliance, cable is losing completely. If it weren't for its sports, or if it weren't for its award shows or its news, cable would die. But let's see how everything goes on. It's 2026. Everything will evolve and see how everything will continue. Because now all the channels that used to be popular are now channels with same content that have rerun shows, no new episodes, new content. So let's see how it goes. What do you guys think? Which one is overtaking which? Is cable winning or is streaming service winning? Just let me know. Please let me know. Comment. I want to hear what you think. Tell me what you think. And tell me your favorite streaming service. Tell me what you enjoy about it. Don't forget to like and subscribe for next episode where we're going to have a little bit more fun. Till next time, guys. I'm glad you enjoyed the MG experience.